Human determination is often the subject of inspirational stories throughout history. We'll explore several stories of great determination that led our guests to what many believe impossible on this edition of Equal Time.
From San Jose State University, you're watching Equal Time, exploring new issues each week, giving equal time to competing points of view.
Hello from the campus of San Jose State University, and welcome to this edition of Equal Time. I'm your host, Journalism School Director Bob Rucker. Jason Becker was one of the world's greatest guitarists at the early age of 17. However, physical challenges would later test his determination. Reporter Anthony Bonanno brings us a story of a rock star virtuoso that becomes even greater despite physical challenges.
Jason Becker was a 19-year-old rock star. He was already regarded as a musical prodigy at age 15, and he was just getting started.
Most people don't know who Jason Becker is. He's an awesome guitarist. He played with David Lee Roth. But tell me about this guy.
Jason Becker is he's a total anomaly. He's a miracle. He was a kid who at age 15 was playing Paganini Caprices perfectly on the electric guitar.
1077 The Bone disc jockey Stephen Seaweed recalls one of Becker's legendary performances.
He would be playing his guitar with his left hand and playing with a yo-yo with his right hand at the same time.
Ozzy Osbourne's lead guitarist Gus G says playing for David Lee Roth was beneath Becker's virtuoso abilities.
He was out of this world, he's playing, so the way that I've heard Jason play, I cannot imagine that it would have been much of a problem to play those tunes.
However, Becker's dreams would come across one major obstacle. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, slowly started to paralyze Jason's body. He was losing the ability to use his hands while recording David Lee Roth's A Little Ain't Enough.
The ALS had started to weaken my left hand, so I had a difficult time with easy P parts.
ALS would eventually paralyze his whole body. He uses a system of eye movements to communicate, a system invented by his father, Gary Becker, also a renowned artist and musician.
We would drive through Hollywood and look at these big mansions, and he would pick one out, which would have made us happy, but the doctor said you're going to die pretty soon.
Usually I've heard they give people with that disease like 3 to 5 years to live, but Jason didn't die.
Becker is among the 5% of people who live for more than 20 years with ALS. Despite not being able to tour with David Lee Roth, Becker had a positive attitude.
wasn't as depressed as should have been. Cause Mike Beamisturfer, HAE helped me CON continue to make music.
Musician and producer Michael Beamisturfer would make it possible for Becker to record music through a computer system from UC Berkeley.
The only thing was to figure out, well, so how can we make a shift from stuff that's fundamentally guitar to using other forms of technology.
Becker went on to compose the world's only album by a person with ALS. He called it Perspective. Guitar legend Michael Lee Firkins played on Jason's album and performed it in front of 5,000 people at Concord Pavilion. Firkins says Becker's music was so complex and so fast it presented challenges for the orchestra.
They played it great, but then all of a sudden the director said, why don't we do this in tempo now? And so the orchestra people were having quite a bit trying to play these arpeggios and things at the right tempo.
CEO of Shrapnel Records, Mike Varney, signed Becker to his first record deal and matched him with David Lee Roth.
To be restricted like that, and to still come up with this great music and do it note by note and to do it in your head, that is really, that's a commitment, and it's deserving of greater recognition.
In 2008, Becker released his favorite album called Collection on the Shrapnel label. Becker's motto in life?
I-D-O, don't, L-E, let, O, B, S, T, obstacles, S, T, O, stop, T, H, E, the, F, U, fun.
Becker was featured in this documentary called Not Dead Yet, and in 2011, an annual Not Dead Yet benefit concert was created by close friend and guitarist David Lopez. The event draws the world's greatest guitarist.
It feels like, you know, you go see like an all-star game at football, you know, everybody, all the baddest guys are together and everybody's having fun, enjoying themselves, and it's for fun and for love.
Gretchen Menn is one of those all-star guitarists who looks forward to playing for Becker every year.
Jason is one of the funniest, one of the warmest, one of the kindest people. And I think that tends to make people want to rise to the occasion and be the best version of themselves.
The sort of fundamental message is to never lose your sense of humor, never lose your sense of love, and never lose your sense of gratefulness.
When we come back, we'll examine the story of a Bay Area football legend who was determined to play the sport that he loved. Stay tuned and be inspired when Equal Time returns. Welcome back. Neil Parry was a proud San Jose State Spartan who would sacrifice even a limb for his university. Reporter Anthony Bonanno shows us how determination could not keep Neil Parry off the football field.
No one notices that the man on the left has a prosthetic leg. Neil Parry was in his second year of playing football on this very field back in 2000 for the San Jose State Spartans, when a catastrophic injury would break his leg and change his life.
I knew my leg was sitting in a position that was not natural, so I purposely didn't look down, but that was the one thing that was really going through my head. Like, I knew that my season was over and I was going to have surgery, and I was really more upset at the time because we were having such a good season.
The injury would finish Parry's season, but he'd soon be faced with an even bigger obstacle. The injury became infected and put Parry's life at risk.
You know what happens if you don't have this done. So I knew as soon as I signed that form that I was no longer going to have a leg. And it was a tough thing to sign away on.
42 surgeries, and 3 years later, Parry would be the first man to ever play football on a prosthetic leg. It was during that time that he met his wife, Rouge. She says Parry's motto, never give up, caught her attention.
When he was trying to come back, that was just the thing that he would always constantly keep repeating to himself, keep next to his bed, on his wrist, everything.
The day finally arrived for Parry's comeback. He would be on the punt return team, but he would have to wait for the defense to get off the field. Radio announcer Mike Chisholm did the radio play-by-play for the Spartans.
Neil didn't get in the first half. And this, of course, was the stage that we set for the broadcast and the pregame show. And then finally in the second half, there was a third down situation and the Spartans held them. Boom. Neil went out there and the place got on its feet. The Nevada fans were on their feet, and it was something that I will never forget.
By this time, his brother Josh was playing with the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL. Two current assistant coaches at San Jose State played with Parry's brother in Philadelphia in 2003 when Neil made his comeback.
He wants to see Spartan football win, and that's what we're all about here. and Josh was the same way when we played together in Philadelphia. So it's just like being around Josh again.
The big thing was when I first got here to go see the trophy case and see his actual prosthetic leg in there and just know what he got to do. I said, how cool is this?
It was just a remarkable deal, and we were proud to have his brother on our team, and in part to see Neil doing the positive things he's doing with the comeback.
If you think it's a tough grind, just all I have to do is go look at Neil, and it's, you know, he just picks me up because I know I can grind through anything.
10 years later, Parry is now a grad student in mass communications and a grad assistant with the Spartan football team.
And that's life. We all face adversity in different ways, shapes, and forms, and it's about overcoming it. And Neil had his adversity in a tough manner, and he overcame it. And so my hat's off to him for what he's done, and I'm so glad to have him part of our program.
His presence is felt among the Spartan football players as well. At the Military Bowl, he was asked to give the pregame speech.
And to have somebody like that as a supporter and been on your team and been around and understands what it takes, and have somebody like that, it's amazing. And to just you've heard this story from everybody else but him, so to get the first person story from him, it was just a deep moment.
No Ordinary Moments is a book by author and public speaker Dan Millman. Millman was a world-renowned gymnast on his way to the Olympics until a motorcycle accident shattered his ankle. His struggle to overcome his injury is well noted in the movie The Peaceful Warrior.
It's important to accept our thoughts and feelings as natural to us in the moment, in the circumstances in which we find ourselves. But at the same time, the question always remains, what will I do now?
Get yourself ready and put yourself in a position so when you are given that opportunity, you're ready to take it and you're not surprised by it.
Heroes and cowards feel exactly the same fear. They just respond differently. And that's true of adversity as well. Some of us go into a victim state. Life will either grind us down or lift us up depending on how we respond.
I'm not going to let some event or some hurdle that's thrown at me stop my goal or stop my achievement of that goal.
Welcome back to this edition of Equal Time. Our focus today is overcoming adversity. Let's meet our guests.
My name is Gary Becker, father of Jason Becker, known all over the world as one of the greatest guitarists and composers ever to live. He has had Lou Gehrig's disease for 24 years. He's totally paralyzed and can only speak through an eye sign language I invented for him, but he continues to compose and inspire people all over the world to this day.
My name is Gretchen Menn. I'm a guitarist and composer, and Jason Becker is one of my biggest heroes and inspirations, and also a very dear friend.
My name is Neil Parry. I attended San Jose State, played football, was injured while playing in my second year. An infection set in, and the doctors were forced to amputate my foot. Was able to come back and play after 3 years of rehab and working out, and am the only amputee to ever play college football.
Jim Murphy, San Jose, California. I was born with cerebral palsy, but cerebral CP don't have me.
Anthony Bonanno, producer and reporter for this episode of Equal Time.
Thank you all for being here. This is going to be a very special show, I can just tell. But I want to start out by asking about the general concept. The public understands the importance of respect for people with disabilities and challenges. But we also don't always understand how far we should go to reach out and help. You created a language for your son. Talk about that.
Yes, well, Jason he was doing a record with David Lee Roth, and he slowly lost his ability to play the guitar and finally had to quit Roth's band and come home and spend time with me. And over the next few years, he continued to work on a new album, but his voice was becoming very difficult for me to understand, and I was very worried that I might not be able to help him or attend to his needs if I could not understand him. So basically I went to my art studio and thought, I've seen alphabet boards where you point to a letter laboriously till you get the right one, and I just wanted it to be direct. So basically I put the alphabet in 6 squares, that's 6 different directions, 4 letters in each square, and held it up to Jason and said, point to your letter, and it turned out every letter had a certain angle. I'll look first to the square, then to the letter. Eventually we memorized that, and so now we talk without the board between us. It's like conversation, only his words will come out of my mouth, and he is now free to communicate whatever he wants.
That's totally remarkable, very impressive. And then speaking of impressive, this young man on the end here, I remember I was teaching here at San Jose State when you had your career, first time, your injury. You were quite a hero to many of the people out there watching. Why did you come back to work here?
Well, it initially started as I was in the hospital watching a game on TV, and I had no idea what I'd be able to do when I got out of the hospital, you know, the limits I could push, and I knew nothing about prosthetics. So I just was asking my dad questions, and it came up, and I said, will I be able to run? And my dad said, yeah, why not? Everybody, there's a lot of guys that run. They have the Paralympics. And I said, well, if I can run, then what would stop me from coming back to play football? And he paused for a second and, you know, said, well, I guess when you put it that way, nothing. I mean, I think you'll probably be the only one to determine that. So that's how it all came up. And I said, well, I'm gonna try and get back with the team. And then once I said I was gonna come back to play, I had to accomplish it for myself. I wanted to finish on my terms. I wanted to walk out on senior day with my family out on the field, and they call my name, and I walk out, and that's how I wanted my career to finish. I didn't want to finish my sophomore year getting wheeled off on a stretcher. So,
very, very encouraging, very inspirational. Gretchen, you have a friend who has a disability. It gives you empowerment to be a good friend. Tell us how.
Jason's just a wonderful human being. I mean, first and foremost, he's a wonderful, sweet, kind, funny person. Secondary to that, he's a very amazing musician, and not just as a guitar player, but as a composer. And he's continued to compose, even with ALS. He translates what he wants to say musically to Gary, and then he's created plenty of music since ALS, even not being able to play guitar. And then in terms of being his friend, yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have a close friendship with someone, you learn important lessons from them. Mm-hmm. And from Jason, it's very easy as a guitar player to be constantly consumed by your own sense of inadequacy because so many people are so amazing at it. And interestingly enough, though Jason had a level of virtuosity that's almost unheard of, part of how he's affected me is feeling that every time I pick up the guitar, it's a gift, and that I'm glad to do it and I appreciate doing it.
These are heartwarming stories. And this young man sitting here also with the cap, Mr. Booster for San Jose State. We appreciate that. How is your life? Tell us about you.
First of all, I need to thank my mom for bringing me into the world. But as a person with a disability, I need to overcome it. I need to overcome my disability. Other people can't overcome it. People can't live my disability for me. I gotta live my own disability. It's like overcoming, and one thing about having a disability is I try to take out, everybody has a disability, but once you take out the disability, you have the ability to be free. You know, anybody has a disability. You got to find a way. I look at my disability like a weight. You got to be stronger than a weight. When people work out, you got to be stronger than a weight.
You got to be
so
strong.
I got to be stronger than my disability.
Absolutely.
So,
but you have an ability nested within.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the message. I can see why Tony wanted to look into this.
Yes, well, I have 10 years experience working with special ed as a counselor, and just about did everything. So yeah, it's something as somebody as undergraduate, studied philosophy here, and then graduate school, counseling and whatnot. I've always looked at the components of being a human being, and how much does the intrinsic value of, say, determination play a factor to overcoming obstacles is what really, drew me to the subject. So some of my topics have, physical challenges, but their minds and their hearts shine through in a way that could be nebulous, as Gretchen points out for Jason, is unreal or totally inspiring. My friend Murph here is pretty shy, but he actually has a very amazing life. He's very close to the football program here at San Jose State. They flew him out for the Military Bowl, right?
That was a good deal, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good game, too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's out at every practice.
He's out at every
practice. I see him on the sidelines. I mean, he's up and down the sidelines. I mean, this guy's amazing.
He's Mr. San Jose
Yep.
State football.
You know, to me, this Neil Parry is inspiration. I've always wanted to be a Neil Parry. That, you know, he was able to do something. He was able to overcome something, prove people wrong, that they could come back onto the football field and prove to people that I could still do it. You know?
Well, let me just say, you both inspire this campus by your life and what you've done, and we're very proud of both of you.
That's one thing along with that is that there's always people that are going to be there that tell you what you can't do. There's never going to be a shortage of people that tell you what you can't do. When I was coming back, I mean, sure, Murph's heard people saying, you can't do that, you can't do this. But like he said, your disability is a weight, and you have to carry it, and you have to overcome that weight and lift it and carry it on your back and move forward and say, hey, you know what, you're not going to tell me what I can do. I'm going to determine what I can do. So keep your opinion to yourself. If you want to say it to yourself, not to me. So I don't want to hear it. I'm going to do what I want to do. So Murph's taken that mindset, and that's kind of the way I approached coming back to the field too. So
that's a good message for all of us. I've shared with you that I have a sister who was born with Down syndrome, and I remember as a child the doctors would be telling my parents, well, you know, don't expect much, and she may not have much time in this world, and setting limits that seemed to be so arbitrary and so painful. She just celebrated her 58th birthday, and she's doing just fine, and she's had a life, a fulfilling life, an opportunity to showcase her talents and abilities. Is that what you wanted for your son, to continue with his extraordinary music career?
Well, of course I did, but in defense of the doctors, he's had some great doctors, and they did say those kind of things to him. But theirs is based on science and lab and statistics, and that leaves out the heart. And all that I've done for Jason, we wrote on Jason's energy. It's because he wanted to. He didn't care. Okay, I got this disease. Meantime, I'm going to work no matter what it takes. So he's got a lot of people working with him, and they all love him, but it's his energy, and he wanted to, and he admits to, you need a team helping you out. You definitely do, but Jason supplied the energy, as these other gentlemen, I'm sure, supply the energy first, and then, hey, we'll get on board.
Don't discount the energy within, don't discount the abilities that are there, still to be nurtured. Tony, when you were looking into this story, what else did you find out?
Well, that they did have great support systems around them. I mean, this whole thing has been not only a message of determination, but of great love too. Jason, just being around him and his family and his friends is something that's completely changed my perspective on life too. I appreciate playing guitar a great deal more, and to just be in the presence of this guy who's kind of angelic, but yet very hilarious. He just dropped your guard, and you wind up having a very deep and intellectual conversation with him. But what you observe is that his friends and his family love him very, very much, and it's very, it's overwhelming. And then when I did Neil's story, I noticed the same thing. There's this brother connection, there's this San Jose State connection, there's this Philadelphia Eagle connection. That's just amazing. Besides his wife and his now 3 children, as we're coming to pretty close to the 10-year mark of his anniversary returning to the field. It's an absolute message of human determination. Don't discount the mind. Definitely don't discount the heart. Put your best foot forward and overcome whatever it is that you feel is something that is worth you to overcome. So I noticed that earlier on, like when you made the decision to come back and play football, it was you weighed it. Was it worth it? What do I have to go through to get to from A to B? You know, and it was absolutely something that they were determined to do, and then surrounded by love in order to get that done. It seems to be the formula that I've noticed in both cases.
And you have family members that are tremendous support.
Exactly.
And there are people in the community, neighbors, friends, churches, synagogues, whatever. Gretchen, people watching would say it requires a lot of patience, though, because some people are uncomfortable dealing with people with disabilities. They don't know how to approach it because they don't want to offend.
I guess I can understand that. I'm named after my dad's sister, Gretchen Elizabeth Menn II. So she was the first. She has cerebral palsy, and she's married to a man with cerebral palsy, interestingly named Jim Murphy.
Really?
And so I grew up totally at peace with the idea that you can have a fully functioning brain, you know, but maybe speak a little more slowly. And with Jason, it was easy. He's so sweet and so funny and so quick. And one thing that I really appreciate about Gary's system is there's something really natural. When you speak to somebody, you look them in the eye. So the fact that Jason's eyes are what do the talking, you know, and all that happens, as Gary said, is the words come out of your mouth, but you're still making eye contact, you're still watching the flow of conversation. And not only that, but you get to know somebody better. And because the system works through spelling out words, you start predicting words, and then you can start predicting sentences, and that really moves things along a lot faster. The communication feels normal, and you know, maybe slightly slower, and I think probably the only thing that takes a little bit of getting used to for some people is we get used to a certain amount of conversational supportiveness. You get used to and you know, people kind of encouraging you to go along when you talk. And with Jason, you know, he can still express, you know, he can smile, and you know, you can read his face a lot, but I think some people tend to not want to leave the space because they don't feel either, because he doesn't interject.
Exactly. And Neil, you can relate to some of the things she just said. People coming up to you since the accident, how has that come across to you?
You know, I still get asked to speak to schools and to children, which I really enjoy doing that.
But do you ever, Neil, find people who will come up to you and say, is it all right to talk about your situation?
Everybody. That's the first thing most people say when they, you know, I don't want to touch on anything you're sensitive about. And that's the, I don't know, with me, I just want to be treated like it never happened. I want to be a person like everyone else. And that's kind of, I just wanted to get back to normal. I want things to be normal. I don't want to be treated any different. You know, I just want to be Neil Parry. I don't want to be Neil Parry, the amputee that did this stuff. I'm me. You know, treat me like you'd talk to your brother.
Very good. I've been teaching at San Jose State, Gretchen, for about 23 years, and we've had a variety of students with disabilities come to the journalism program. We do work to make accommodations because we want to give everybody that sense of empowerment, that they have skills and abilities that we want to help them to forward and use. And I've noticed, though, with students in class, at first everyone's kind of cautious. They wait, they don't want to offend, they're trying to be respectful. But once the student showcases, the person with disability showcases, I can do this, and with just a little help, I can even work with you, there's just this magic energy that takes over. And before the end of the semester, they're good friends, they're all working together, they're including everybody. Is that the sort of thing you see in people, and that's what you would encourage people to look for, that commonality of connection?
I think I would just say, like, be open to connection in all its different forms. You know, people take all different shapes and sizes, and you know, manifest on a physical level that really doesn't matter that much. I mean, if we think about how much any of us really connect with certain just things that we were either born with, or that, you know, whether it's a scar that we acquired or anything like that, we don't own it the same way that we own who we are.
So we have to be patient, but we also be human.
Yeah, and recognize that in other people.
And care about people. Great program, folks. Thank you. It was a pleasure and a privilege to have all of you here today. And thank you for picking the topic. Thank you for joining us. Come on back for another edition of Equal Time.